I'm talking about the pusher pattern. And the particular client that I'm thinking as I describe this pattern has a strong warrior part to their personality. So, typically think of a rugby player or a rugby league player. I mean, they personify when they're playing rugby or rugby league. They're going to go into battle, and they don't care about getting hurt. So they're very tough, robust, and I suppose you could say they're fighters. Anyone with a strong warrior part of their personality. He was also highly driven. He really, really wanted wealth and really, really wanted a good life. He was also a control freak, which is interesting because as we talked about the captain pattern, the control freak served him in the early stages of his business development, and he was hugely successful quickly, by the way. So with this control freak, he was involved with every decision, and he wouldn't let the business go. So he was on top of everything, making it perform. He also had a strong accountant part to his personality, meaning he could always wouldn't see things from a relational perspective or a human perspective. Well, he could, but this accountant part would always look at things from a financial perspective. So he would get financial updates on his business every day. Now, when he wasn't achieving these these amazing financial targets, he would be frustrated. To give you an understanding, plenty of money, but he hadn't reached that target. So I hope you sort of get the character that I'm talking about here. Okay, hugely driven. $1 million is not enough. I'm joking, but you get me. It's like, well, that's what we said we were going to achieve. We're not. I'm frustrated. This certainly, as I said, helped them in early stages. That once he started to build a team, his personal blind spots started to backfire, because when he was just him and a couple other people, well, it was fine. Okay, it still wasn't a wonderful environment, but his business became a big business, and so he ended up with like 40 staff and had leadership teams with 40 staff, right? So the more the bigger the team got bigger, the more he had to control, right? Because you'll get this, he had to control people. You'll see where I'm going with this. And when things weren't met, when things stuffed up, or there was any struggle, he was ruthless towards people. So his basic sense was he had no patience. He would get angry when, as I said before, when the financial goals weren't achieved or there were problems, and he would be angry towards his staff. So this was his blind spot. Now what happened? Because he didn't know it, right? Again, this is the thing with blind spots. If you've got a blind spot, you behave a certain way. You don't even see the way you're behaving. Other people will see it, but you don't. And you think it's normal because based on your maps of reality and your belief systems, that's just how you are. That's how it's supposed to be. And in this case, of course, this meant his team started to crumble. And whenever his team would start to crumble, and you'll remember this, Georgina, because you've also done work with this particular gentleman, he would have to rush back in there and fix it up again. And this is the kind of things he would say. You can't get good staff. It doesn't matter what I try, they're just hopeless. And he would never speak kindly about any of his staff. So I just want to quickly talk about maybe some of the emotional experiences of his staff. So some of his staff were trying really hard. He would come in and he would be angry and aggressive. And they'd be like, oh. So they started to lose faith in him. And they felt like they weren't valued. He also had leadership teams put in place, and he would come in and question all the decision-making processes, and then all the time. And they would make decisions about how they wanted things done, and he would come in and tell them, no, you can't do it that way, and take away all their power and make the decisions for them, which is, why would you have a leadership team in the first place? If you want to divest yourself of the business, if you want to grow a business that makes a lot of money and gives you a good lifestyle, you've got to give control to people. So when these staff left, of course, again, he would have to go through the whole process. So you get the idea around his blind spots. I want to take this a little bit further and then I'm going to hand over to you too. But one of the things I noticed in working with this particular gentleman is he was betrayed in his childhood. And that's really significant. So he was betrayed by significant family members in his childhood. So what happened is, on an unconscious level, outside of his awareness, he ended up with a couple of belief systems. The first belief system was, I can't trust anyone. I can't trust anyone. If I can't trust the people that are supposed to love me, I can't trust anyone. Okay? Also, in his childhood, he had some really horrible experiences. So not only that just came out of the blue, not only did he have the belief that I can't trust anyone, it was like, I just can't trust. Okay? Which led to this micromanagement, control freak nature, and this real pushing part of him that would push and push and push people. Now, as you can see, until he dealt with this blind spot, he could never grow the business past a certain ceiling, because he would always have to be in control. Also important to say, he was burnt out, tired, had health issues. Because with those belief systems driving micromanagement, pushing type behaviours towards his team, he's on hyper alert 24/7. Georgina, any insights to this particular pattern, the pusher pattern?
Yes, definitely, Perry. It is similar to a couple of the other patterns that we have referred to, because there's some elements of the rushing pattern in there as well, with the pusher, because there's a certain amount of time constraints that become involved with the pusher's pattern. They really want to take control, because they know if they can't trust anyone outside of themselves, that they're the ones that need to control as much as they can. And of course, especially when, as you said, when you're starting to grow your business, there's no way that you can be in control of that many people. So he put the leadership team in, but he didn't trust the leadership team either. And so what his real challenge was, he became overwhelmed. And that made the pusher even stronger, because this belief the pusher has is that, oh, I'm just not working hard enough. I just have to keep at it. If I work more, if I push other people. He was not only pushing himself, but he was pushing the other people, which of course also led to the resentment and the feeling that they didn't have the same vested interest as he did, because they weren't inside his head. They weren't able to do things the way that he would have done them. So it was kind of a no-win situation when the pusher gets into dysfunction. The overwhelm is the main thing, but there's also a feeling that people are unable to really take responsibility, and so he needed to take it all, and the burnout that ensued just made him project everything that might have been going on for him internally. He just projected it externally to everyone in his business. He actually didn't take any responsibility for this pusher and this emotion and overwhelm that was going on, because he was so outwardly focused on people not doing things the way he wanted them done.
Yeah, well, the other thing I see is, as you're talking, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because they had the belief, I can't trust anyone, which drove certain behaviours that meant his staff didn't like him, didn't have any faith in him, and would leave him. So he would keep creating experiences that really supported that belief system that set them up in the first place.
Definitely.
I'd like to just add in another belief system that I've seen with the clients that I've worked with, the pusher pattern. And one of the really underlying main belief systems of the pusher pattern is that it's never enough. And if you've got a business owner with the belief system that it's never enough, you can imagine the ramifications that has for the business owner themselves. If it's never enough, you're always pushing for that next level. You're always pushing for that next dollar amount. You're always pushing your staff for more results, and nothing will ever be enough. And if you're somebody that's watching and you've got the pusher pattern, for them to never have enough, if you think about, well, if they got to the point where it is enough and they were to enjoy their lives, it's highly triggering, because they've got to accept life as something very different to what they've been grown up to, conditioned to believe it has to be. So that belief system in itself just totally undermines and totally sabotages the business, because, I mean, in a way, in its functional capacity, it's never enough is great, because it's constantly pushing the business for results. But in its dysfunctional form, it's aggressive. And, you know, I know that you had a client once, Perry, that only realized that he had the pusher pattern once he had cancer, and once he had cancer, then he slowed down and started to enjoy the things that he was missing out on life. And I guess the point I'm trying to bring is that people with the pusher pattern are really missing out on a lot of life because they're constantly striving for more.
Well, it's interesting as you say that, and Georgina, because Georgina has also worked with this particular client. They came from a very poor family. So that whole thing of not enough and scarcity was a fear driver that would keep putting them to the pusher. And remember I said before that there was plenty of money, but because it wasn't equal to their target, like you said, it's not enough. And then the unconscious, if things got a bit stretched at all, it would trigger his fears from childhood about poverty. There's not enough, and would drive the pusher more in a cycle. So there we go, everybody. The pusher pattern. One to watch out for as a business owner.